Welcome to Green Kite's Ask the Experts. In this podcast series, we cut through the jargon and we try and get straight to what really matters in our industry. So if you are having issues, you're navigating tricky changes, then you're in the right place. Come listen to us and we'll help you tackle those questions in insurance, one episode at a time. Hi, good afternoon. I'm delighted to welcome John Needham from PKF at the next of our podcast, talking about the MGA sector and delegated authority within the London market. John comes without the need for any kind of introduction. You've probably bumped into him at Instech London or seen him at the MGAA. If any of you out there have started up an MGA or a cover holder, definitely his name's been in the mix. He's an accountant by background, a delegated authority expert by choice, and has advised many and all of you in the market. So what we thought we'd do today is we'd share some of our experiences, because we both come and look at MGAs through a different lens, I think is fair to say, isn't it, John?
Yep.
But actually our experiences are similar and distinct. And so what we thought we'd try and do is have a chat and make it as animated and as interesting as possible around what do you do to make sure your MGA survives? And when you're in trouble, who do you speak to, or what can you do to make sure that you can carry on trading and get through those difficult patches when you're in startup scale-up mode? And I can honestly say from experience, I know what that feels like, having started my own business 5 years ago. And I know John has been on many a journey with MGAs, struggling, and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel is often difficult without the support of people like John. So, John,
Wow.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's quite an intro. As you say, our worlds sort of cross over quite a lot, which is, I guess, why we're doing the podcast together. Going from that accounting, financial, reg side, and Sarah, you add all your bits in to give a wider view on life for the MGAs that we help. So yeah, super happy to be here. We ended up kind of, more luck than judgment, being in the same place at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you who know us well, we both have a love of wine from various sectors, and you may or may not guess it, but we're sitting in a wine cellar the week before Christmas, hopefully going to have a nice glass together when we finish recording this. So it's not going to be published till the new year, but so that explains where we're at, and how well we know one another.
There we go.
So, okay, so MGAs, cover holders, what does it mean? What do you think we need to have in place if, when we're advising our clients, what do we tell them as a basis? What do we both think that they need to have in place to be successful?
Okay, so yeah, we put together some ideas on this, but I think if we go from a real high level, currently, we're in a market where I think the underwriting results and the focus on underwriting have to be the key. That's underpins the whole long-term success of the business in terms of profitability and valuation. But there's a whole bunch of other things that we need to put in place to support that underwriting activity in terms of the normal business operations of a regulated intermediary. So I know we put together a few things. What do you want to go through those?
I mean, I guess what do people come and ask me about is regulatory permission. So everyone goes, well, we know that we need to be authorised. How do we do that? So, you can still be an AR, you can apply for fully authorisation, and what I would say to John is, if you have regulatory concerns, we can normally help you through those and troubles on the journey. And for me, it's almost come full circle that two non-underwriters are now saying the most important thing is underwriting, right? Because I think it touches on both of our lives. So for me, Consumer Duty has refocused everyone's mind around regulation. It's not just about filling in the boxes, making sure you're doing the right stuff. It's actually making sure that the underwriting practices and the pricing protocols which underpin your MGA structure meet both regulatory scrutiny, but actually have the customer in mind And actually you can demonstrate that all of your processes are aimed at that end customer. And underwriters no longer are good at underwriting just because they bring in £10 million books, right? They're good at underwriting if they can properly validate a profile, a portfolio, a subdelegee, all that kind of nice stuff that used to just sit at compliance and the audit store in the past.
So it's underwriting profitably but sustainably with the customer focus in mind. So you're bringing that balance to the portfolio, and I guess that then underpins the sort of financial viability of the business. So we've got, with a lot of the MGAs, we'll be looking for profit commission, which is obviously a key part of their income. And I guess we're seeing a bit more of the bigger you get, the easier it is to maintain a reasonable profit commission coming through, because you can balance your book with different lines of business and a bit of diversification.
Yeah, I mean, I would say with profit commissions, they're great, but you need to be careful as well, because most of them have a clawback provision. And I've worked with, I bet you have as well, a number of MGAs where actually that's come to bite them after the event, because actually their underlying underwriting profitability isn't as they forecast. And so insurers are then knocking on the door for that clawback. So, there's good and bads even with a profit commission, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you can diversify away any volatility in the profit commission, we see certainly really our top performing MGAs will try and convert some of that PC into more commission to stabilize things.
Makes sense.
So you've got that as the core. So again, you can start your business planning by saying, okay, well, we're going to build our sustainable business by ensuring that the business runs sustainably without PC. So the PC is really the icing on the cake, if you like, and then start working away in terms of how do we get more sustainable profit commission through.
I think you touched on something there that's really interesting, John, actually, when you said about, because you said it's not just around profitable underwriting, it's about diversification. And that to me is really important now, because the days of the monoline MGA, dare I say, are a bit numbered, because actually there is, when you're trying to offer an insurer a balanced portfolio, there's some benefits for writing more than one class, isn't there? I mean, I guess there's a fine balance between biting off more than you can chew at day one, so not writing 24 classes, but actually, if you really are interested in a long-term partnership with your capacity provider, offering them access to different segments and target customers, I think is now an important consideration when they're looking for an MGA that they want to support, isn't it?
Yeah, and if you're great at underwriting in a particular class, and you've got the right philosophy, you've got the right sustainability in terms of product and consumer and your clients, chances are you're going to be pretty good at the other elements: compliance, financial management. We put down risk management on our list of
let's not forget that
topics. If you're good at all of that on one class, chances are you're probably going to have that same philosophy across other classes. If you bring in a different class underwriter, let's say, or let's call them a class underwriter, and start to widen out that portfolio, quite often, going back to what you were saying about the monoline, super hard, particularly if you're a startup as well. If you've got any kind of, I mean, we talked about motor before the webinar started. If you're a single line mono motor MGA, you've got potentially huge volatility in that startup phase. So I guess even before you get going, having a think about how that underwriting profile is going to work through.
It almost is chicken and egg, isn't it? Because when you're a startup, you don't want to be writing more than one class, and you don't want to be promising lots of income to any insurer. Actually, to become an attractive proposition these days, you actually have to have some volume of income and or distribution that you can offer an insurer partner, because it's a hard market to crack out there, isn't it, to find the right insurer partner of choice.
Probably more so than ever, we've got support from an underwriting perspective. So we've got Lloyd's being quite positive about MGAs and their importance to the market. We've got new carriers coming into the market. A whole bunch of new fronting type
The
insurers
front
coming
is
in.
a whole new move, which is quite an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, I think definitely there's a move in the market, I think, to kind of monopolize on delegated authorities, if you like, because they are seen as a good means of securing market segments, but also keeping one's underwriting costs down. So, I mean, I think there is this influx of new carriers, but actually they're more demanding almost. So it's not, even though there's lots of capacity seemingly available, it's not making it any easier for our MGAs or cover holders to secure, is it?
No, I think again was one of the things we were talking about pre-call was some of the work that you're doing for carriers. I think they're spending more time, resource, energy in understanding the risks associated with delegation, but also the management of that, and then that hits the MGAs because the carriers are much more proactive potentially in getting involved in management.
I think gone are the days where a cover holder could sit on a bordereau for 3 months and not worry about sending it to carriers. I mean, at least they know that those bordereaux are outstanding now, and indeed, there is almost two different chains of thought, isn't there? So an insurtech may have straight through API kind of connectivity, so they for certain carriers are an attractive proposition because there's an immediacy around the data and the MI. For others, the more traditional bordereau kind of style Excel reporting kind of template is fine, but I think carriers are now demanding that information in a more consistent fashion, definitely in a more timely fashion, and actually they're using that data and MI for the first time, in my view, to identify potential concerns around operational issues and or indeed performance in a much earlier stage as a means to kind of access and get availability with and contact to the MGA. So I definitely think there's a movement around data and MI to support any kind of MGA more than I've seen for a while. Whether or not that's consumer duty related, I don't know what your view is, or just generally a move to people wanting to do more technical underwriting, if you like.
I think that's right. So, you mentioned, InsurTech London, and the guys there are doing a good job in terms of showcasing a lot of the stuff that's out there. But one of the things I guess I've observed in that area is just the volume of new products coming onto market, whether it's underwriting workbenches or data feeds, technology that can support that underwriting process. If we go right back to where we started with what makes a sustainable MGA, you've got this. You have to really have thought about your technology platform or be thinking about it in terms of that ability to be able to communicate effectively with the underwriters, management of underwriting, effectively being able to utilize the new technology that's available to you. The other, in fact, I had a really interesting conversation last week with an MGA who was looking at different products to effectively allow them to rebalance the scale of their business or the balance of skill levels in their business. So effectively saying, look, I don't want to have a whole army of underwriting technicians and assistants. I want to build a top heavy structure, and I'm going to effectively allow myself to do that by supporting the whole thing with some really nice technology platform to perform a load of functions that again historically would have been.
And I think that's quite interesting. In fact, one of the podcasts of the series that we're having is with the technology platform, and we will be speaking about why it's so important for MGAs to have the right platform. Because I mean, to be honest, there's lots out there, and lots of MGAs develop their own. But actually, I think one of the key things that I found, and I know that you mentioned beforehand, is that a platform is only going to be of use to your MGA business if it's properly configured to suit your business and actually gives insurers the information that they're demanding of you. So there is that greater appreciation, I think, of what insurers need to make sure that your MGA is able to provide and facilitate the production of information for them. And that didn't really used to be part of the take-on process or the due diligence, if you want to call it, of an insurer. But I think consumer duty definitely, but I just think generally people are just that demand is now there, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I think if you're to be honest, I think most new startups that we're seeing in the last 12, 24, 36 months have had technology right at the start of that discussion on their mind in terms of what platform are we going to use. I think there's still a problem to a degree in the market that it's super difficult to evaluate which tech platform is the one for you, and that question keeps coming up. Who should we go to? Who should we talk to? I know
and I mean, I think also when you're gearing up as well, it's actually that can be the means to making more underwriting profit, like in the model that you just mentioned, can't it? But actually, if you're not with the right tech platform, then actually some of them don't offer that capability to do top level those people and scale up in the way that you just said.
Yeah, you get to a point if you're on the wrong platform that you just get stuck, and again, there's this inevitable conversation that comes out of, right, we're thinking of re-platforming, we know it's going to be a nightmare. So whether you're a startup or established player, that platform
and I'd say
important.
It's a bit like any service provision, isn't it? Like any introductory offers, i.e. we build up your own platform for nothing. Be careful. There's often a sting in the tail because there's nothing. You can't get anything for nothing. So actually be mindful that when you're committing to something, what the fee looks like, and actually when you scale, when you are writing volume, what that fee then entails and becomes, I think is now should be part of that decision. Because if you are planning to scale, and most MGAs set up to scale, actually you don't want your platform to be cost prohibitive, because otherwise you're having those conversations earlier than one would want, right?
Yeah, totally. So I guess I was thinking that's sort of we've got probably underwriting, reg, operations, risk management, considerations.
What about finance?
Finance, I guess, in a funny kind of way, is obviously the financial management of the business is super important. If we look at that from a couple of different lenses, so I guess as a startup, getting financing is obviously a little bit tricky, but I think for established teams or capable teams that are leaving existing businesses with a track record, there is a lot of positivity around MGAs at the moment. So the funding landscape is probably easier than it has been for a little while.
Yeah, and when you say a little while, I'd say for at least the last 36 months. It feels like there's just more people interested again. There's appetite, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. There's appetite, and there's more people coming on to the market. In terms of once the business is going, we're finding that, again, comes back to the underwriting result. As long as the business isn't subject to shock, generally we're seeing MGAs hitting their plans in terms of volumes, delivering. It comes back down to, have you delivered a result for the underwriter? If you haven't, and it's early days, are you going to have a problem with your capacity? And then that's the thing that kills it from a financial perspective.
So even having problems with capacity providers is that it can be a damp squib, if you like, as far as the financial viability of the MGA still.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I think if we're in a positive place in terms of funding. We're
Mm-hmm.
in a positive place in terms of the outlook for MGAs and the support that's there in terms of probably some of the cost of setting up an MGA
Yeah.
are lower than they have been for a while.
Yeah, well,
Because
definitely you
there's
can
lots
rely
of
a bit more on outsourced providers and outsourcers,
yeah
and there's lots of organisations like ours that kind of say you can have a one day of a GK and a GC and one day of a CFO a month, and I think there is
yeah
definitely a willingness to support in the environment, isn't there? Support these new
yeah
startups.
the infrastructure in London
Yeah,
market or elsewhere is
it's
there.
much better than it's been before.
And there's some more established players out there, so you can get going, potentially get funding, and then get ongoing funding to a degree. It is the thing that you're trying to deliver in terms of outcomes for the customer, outcomes for the underwriter.
Mm-hmm.
If you're able to deliver on that, then we're seeing some pretty good results in the market.
Yeah.
The shock to the financial viability comes when you're not delivering on those things. We get something going wrong from a reg point of view in terms of it's relatively rare. I mean, you probably say a bit more than
Yeah, I
just
mean,
than
from
me.
a reg point of view, there's a number of things where we are finding, there's the regulator is either more interested in some of the arrangements than maybe historically they have been. I think in light of recent findings around the regulator's performance, I suspect 2025 will see greater interest as far as setup and how organisations are structured. So there's definitely some risks around that. So I think doing your due diligence around the corporate structuring and the regulatory infrastructure is important. But a bit like the financial issues, the triggers kind of are the same. So if you can demonstrate good underwriting in that you're writing the right risks, you're getting the right results, and you've got the right customer outcomes, then I think generally most other regulatory issues, and this is a bit of a broad sweeping statement, so don't hold me to this, but most other issues can be resolved as long as we maintain communication in an open and transparent way with the regulator. I mean, lots of people think that the regulator is obstructive, and in certain regards they are, but actually they don't want to close businesses down. They understand that some of the decisions they made in 2024 maybe had unintended consequences, but actually when you speak to the individual sitting behind the scenes, actually all they want to do is make sure that the insurance distribution organisations, be they broker or MGA, are actually still maintain their hold in the market, because they do appreciate the importance that they play both in the insurance infrastructure, but more importantly for the customer. There is customer detriment if those brokers and MGAs don't exist, and the regulator does get that. So my experience is they are open to working with lots of organisations. So not great if you find yourself in regulatory hot water, but actually I think sometimes fessing up and just working with them to resolve the issues is in my experience it's counterintuitive, but actually the most effective means.
And quite often these things, I guess from my perspective, go hand in hand in terms of maybe sort of starting to look at the culture and the philosophy of the business. If you have the right kind of outlook on all of these, financial management, underwriting performance, reg.
Great.
The culture of the business when you're dealing with a regulator will come through, and if you're convincing the regulator that you're trying to do the right thing, then ultimately you're probably going to be okay. And the flip side of that is if you're not dedicated to underwriting profit, you're not dedicated to customer, you've got a weaker culture, that's probably not going to go so well.
No, I think that it's as simple as that, and I think that almost takes us full circle, doesn't it? To kind of, it is around thinking around where you want to get to and bringing in the right people. So building the right team and the right infrastructural support within your MGA, attracting the right hires, developing the right culture, adopting the right approach, almost, I think stands you in good stead in the face of other hiccups in the growth journey, I think is a polite way of saying it.
Yeah, I think that's right, and that relates back to how do you build a sustainable MGA? Probably go back and say, well, okay, let's think about that culture first, and who is your team?
Yeah.
Who have you got around you? Are you all pulling in that right direction towards those objectives that we've just been?
I mean, maybe it's as simple as, why did you leave your old shop? Because quite often I find, I don't know if you do, but people set up an MGA because they have a frustration here, they didn't like the culture here, they didn't like how people. So actually, sometimes just going back to the basics, why are you where you are, setting up this business for yourself, actually, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? It gives you that good cultural alignment right from the start.
Yeah, and I think we've seen probably, again, I'm trying to think back over the last sort of 36 months of, we've done a lot of chat about startups here rather than more bigger businesses, but the newer businesses that we've seen have all been very focused on underwriting, very focused on technology. Some probably more focused on technology than the underwriting,
sure.
but quality businesses coming through. I think probably some of the things that, sort of going slightly off on a tangent here, but link it back. Some of the problems that they've had in terms of sustainability is the lack of experience of actually running a business. So that's actually quite a common thing. You'll say, right, well, I've been head of class for this particular thing. I'm leaving this underwriter. Actually, I've never actually had to run a corporate P&L, run the underwriting.
Yeah, more importantly, what do you mean I have to have terms of reference for my board or my exec, or I need to have monthly underwriting meetings? Oh, someone else always used to set those up for me. And designing your product governance, I agree, actually it's the running the mechanics of the business, but flipping it out. And if you think about once you've launched, John, I would say our experience of like working quite closely with a number of insurers is there is a different take on MGAs and cover holders within the kind of supply chain. I've always been a supporter of partnership, and even from my days in Penn, I was like partnership. But actually, it now actually has a true meaning, and our take is that insurers really are starting to understand what true partnerships with good MGA and cover holders look like and feel like, and I think once that partnership is recognised by both parties, actually it brings benefits to both. That one of those problems for those startups is, well, I don't know how to look at a business P&L or how do I run this terms of reference? Well, actually, we're finding insurers are quite happy to lend a hand on stuff like that if they've got templates or advice or support. And I think that's definitely a changing the tide, so to speak, because there is a better understanding that this is a relationship. I mean, now it just takes so long, so you have to have longevity in that partnership to bring the ultimate value as an insurer, because otherwise one could say you've wasted X number of days looking at this cover holder if it's only going to be for 12 months. What is the profitability in that? So I think that's an interesting change in the market, I would say, as well.
And the answers to a lot of these questions are around as well, aren't they? We sort of touched on that earlier with the sort of the infrastructure is available. I think for that team that are starting out, they've just got to find the right people and the right talent to bring into the business. Sometimes sooner than they probably think they need to get hold of like a compliance person, or from my perspective, it's usually I don't want to get an FD in from day one.
And they think they can rely on their high street accountant, and I think gone are the days where you can rely on your high street accountant if you want to set up an MGA business, to be honest. They can launch you, but actually there's value to proper advice. And I would say the same in the compliance field, that buying in that advice right at the very beginning, whatever is outside of your own personal experience, it feels like an unnecessary expense. My experience is that actually the benefits that are brought from securing that advice up front are insurmountable.
Yeah. Although that's usually where most of my interesting projects come from. So
Well, when they go wrong.
when they go wrong, don't stop using high street accountants.
And to be fair, that's what makes the likes of us most money when there's problems, right? It's much easier to support lots of firms that are all running smoothly, and that's what I'd much rather do actually. But yeah, it's sometimes more cost effective to pay for that upfront advice rather than just bring it in when it goes wrong.
It's interesting though, because I guess. Yeah, I sort of think about some of the stuff that we're working on at the moment. Sorry, we're going a bit off topic here, but
that's all right.
Yeah, we've got data issues, we've got issues with sort of regulatory capital. We've got, I know we didn't register for VAT, or we've got VAT.
Oh, I love a VAT. I've had a few MGAs that have had trouble with not registering correctly.
Reverse charge stuff going on.
Just because you're an insurance intermediary doesn't mean that you haven't got VATable services.
Exactly. So you've got those kind of things that are all the problems that sort of come to us. Someone's gotten a muddle. That can all be fixed, as you said earlier. You can deal with these things. There's probably cash flow implications and things like that, but actually they're not impacting on your underwriting.
Nope.
If your underwriting's absolutely solid, you'll probably find a way through these, unless it's an absolute disaster. But probably culturally, if you're doing well, you'll survive through that. So the issue with those kind of things, again, going back to that sustainability of building a successful MGA, is that if you're you can be at any size in this, the scale of the issue gets worse the bigger that you are if it comes along, but you just don't want the hassle of these things.
Well, it takes your eye off what you should be doing, which is writing profitable underwriting, like doing profitable underwriting.
Finding new teams, finding new people, underwriting, running your business. The amount of time and energy required in dealing with all of these things that go wrong is probably the biggest killer, rather than it actually putting you out of business. It's more the impact on it's the lack of focus on your growth curve.
Yeah.
Or you do take your eye off the underwriting. We had one client who, I won't say too much, but effectively the management team got totally distracted with an issue, and actually on a particular product, wasn't a big product, but they completely lost track of the renewals on that binder for that product.
Yeah.
Which caused some massive headaches, as you can imagine.
Yeah, so, it's not just income; it's revenue for insurers. It's continuity of service. There's all kinds of regulatory implications depending on the class. Yeah, that's a toughie. I guess drawing some of these ideas to some kind of conclusion and help. I suppose where we're landing, and forgive me if I'm kind of summarising, but I think what we're kind of saying is keep your eyes on the ball, and when your eyes are on the ball, and that means good underwriting, controlled underwriting, good relationship management. Even if you're an insurer or an MGA, because you're likely to have an extended supply chain, or rely on external services. Build a team that you trust. Build a team that can grow with your entity.
Don't go for budget people.
Yeah.
In your support staff.
Yeah. Cheapest is not always best.
No.
But I think always be guided by where your market or what your intentions are for your MGA business. So, I think that's important. What else would you say should be up there on your checklist of things to consider before you jump in? Or I think exercises like this are quite helpful, having run my own business every 12 to 18 months. So revisit, because what I've found is, and I don't know if other people agree, but what you devise for your business now probably won't fit your business in 6 to 9 months. So So that doesn't make it a wrong decision. Actually, I think you need to be open enough yourself to constantly question whether or not it's the right decision or the right place, depending on your development. And I think, having this checklist at day one isn't just a checklist for day one. It's actually something that should be applied routinely.
Yeah, and I think we sort of touched on that risk management piece earlier, but just that whole what's gonna throw me, what's coming up, where am I going next? And we're always talking about business planning, but constant evaluation of that and challenging what the business is doing, and that whole thing of what's
next
drive me off the road is the
So I think there's lots of things, and I think just being alive to the risks that are there is there's the old adage, isn't there? A problem is shared if your problem is halved if you share it, but also being alive to the risks don't make them a risk. And I think that whole piece around having a resilient business by being aware of what the risks might be,
not ignoring something.
There are signals, aren't there?
Yeah.
Have your own MI and KPIs. Don't just give it to insurers. Use it to run your business.
I'm struggling to run management reports. Okay, red alert. You can't be in that environment anymore. You used to have that.
Put your hand up and ask someone what you need to be running, and get you an MI pack so you can understand your own business. I think it's all about, it's just being cognizant of the risks, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, I suppose that's easy to say. You've got some teams that will be aware of the risks and then they're able to manage them, and then other teams that don't necessarily know what they all are. But I guess that's again comes back to the value of surrounding yourself with people that are aware and can flag some of those risks up to you, and having those guys as part of the management team or as your advisors, to keep you back on that path of, right, I understand all these things that are gonna come up on the journey. And that,
definitely,
from our experience of, you work with some huge carriers as well, those risks never stop, or the issues that come along never stop. They just change in nature, and then your team and your business will evolve, or needs to evolve the whole time to match.
All right, well, I think we'll leave it there for today, John. Thank you very much for your time and for imparting your invaluable knowledge. It's been a delight to have you on board, and I hope you've all found that interesting. And if you need any help, then this man is the man, or this girl might be the girl. So hopefully that's been useful and an enjoyable listen to.
Cool. Thanks very much. It was super fun.
See you.
See you.
Thanks for tuning in to Ask the Experts with Green Kite, and we hope that you've gained some valuable insights which help you steer your insurance journey with confidence. Remember that for every complex question, there's always a clear answer just waiting to be unearthed. Join us next time as we continue to decode the intricacies of the insurance world. More expertise on demand? If you need it, then visit our website. Take care, and see you all on the next episode.